Hello everybody, Levi Clay here, and I'm back again to do another quick little lesson. This time clarifying some of the points that I made in the last lesson on the Allan Holdsworth chord scale concepts. I don't want anybody to think that I was conflating, suggesting that the Ionian sharp 5 and harmonic major were the same scale. But let's talk about that. So we were playing these chords. Very interesting sounding chords. Great sounding voicings. They're all diatonic to the key of C major, so they contain the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. When I'm playing those chord voicings, they come, in my mind, they come from this C major 7 sus chord voicing. Now, in a previous lesson, I talked about the secret Allan Holdsworth chord, that major 7 sharp 5. That Alan's very fond of. He plays that chord voicing quite a lot. It's a nice voicing for it. Or with on the look. Very interesting sounding chord voicing. Alan's very fond of that sound. So, when looking at these major 7 inspired voicings, I thought, well, why don't we introduce that sharp 5 into the equation? And that gives us like a major 7 sharp 5 sus. You know, quite a complicated name for a chord, but really we're just going for a sound quality. And I made this comment that evidently caused a bit of confusion, where I said I'm thinking of this as like Ionian sharp 5, the major scale with a sharpened 5th. And then I said, oh, you could think of it as harmonic major. Now those two scales are not the same thing, but the harmonized, when you harmonize that scale, both of them contain this chord voicing. So the other chords in the scale will be different, but they both contain this chord voicing, coming out of a C, a D, a G sharp, and a B. The difference being harmonic major contains an A flat, technically speaking, and the Ionian sharp 5 has that G sharp, the sharp 5. But note-wise, definitely those notes. So, what are these scales? Let's do a chord scale for each, just so we can hear the subtle difference between the two. It's a very subtle difference, but a very cool difference. So Ionian sharp 5, I'm just going to play without the sound because I've got that silly delay on. Ionian sharp 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 sharp 5. And the major 7, 6 and 7. That sharp 5 in there. That's the Ionian sharp 5, and as people pointed out, that's a mode of the harmonic minor scale. It's the third mode of the harmonic minor scale. In terms of the context that you use it, you could think harmonic minor, that would kind of work. Play harmonic minor off the 6th, and that's going to give you the same sound, same notes. It will work lovely over that major 7 sharp 5, because these 4 notes just come from that scale. The harmonic major scale, on the other hand, a much less common, underutilized scale, though Allan was partial to it, is the major scale with a flattened 6th. So C, D, E, F, G, A flat, B and C. So that one obviously contains both a G and an A flat. And that's the key difference between these two things. So when I was looking at these chord scales, playing these voicings, from an Ionian sharp 5 perspective, we would play each one of these chord voicings and say, is there a G in this chord voicing? Well, in this particular one there's not. In this one, hello dog, there's a G in this, so we sharpen that. And that gives us a chord voicing that will fit in Ionian sharp 5. So again, here there's a G sharp, sorry, a G, so we make it G sharp. Here, there's a G, so we make it sharp. And then we have, again, well, there's a G in that, so we make it sharp. And then we're back to where we started. So now we have a new harmonized scale that outlines the mode of Ionian sharp 5. Let me play that real slow for you. That gives us our Ionian sharp 5, the notes C, D, E, F, G sharp, A and B. Harmonic major, on the other hand, will contain those voicings. They will all work, but it's not strictly the case for that chord scale, because what we have to do to find the harmonic major is to take those same chord voicings, not sharpen our G, because the scale still contains a G, but flatten our A. So, in our previous example, the first chord was this, lovely chord. Moving to this. But in harmonic major, we would look at this and we would say, okay, so our notes are F, B, C, and A. So there's obviously an A there, and I can flatten that. When I move to my next chord voicing, unaltered, our notes would be G, C, D, and B. So there's no A there for us to flatten. So we'd have this, followed by this. Our next unaltered form would be this. Well, again, when we look at these notes, we've got an A, a D, an E, and a C. We can flatten that A and get that chord voicing. So now we have this. Makes sense? When we move up to the next, again, unaltered form. If we look at the notes, we've got a B, an E, an F, and a D. So no need to change anything there. When we move up to our next voicing, it's a tricky one. We've got our C, an F, a G, and an E. No need to change anything here. So back from the top, we'd have this. When we move on to our next voicing, it would normally be this. But again, if we check our voicings, our notes, we've got a D, a G, an A, and an F. So we flatten that A and we get this. Nice sounding chord. And then finally we're up here, which again gives us the notes E, A, B, and G. So we can flatten our A and we get. And then back to where we started. So let me play them one after the other so we can hear the difference between those two things. This would be that chord, this chord form, harmonized, but using C harmonic major. So now I'm going to make a mistake, aren't I? So you can see I'm having to think about that and check that I'm not playing any A naturals. That's harmonic major. And here, just for reference, is our Ionian sharp 5. Different sound. Sorry. Played that wrong voice in there, didn't I? Here I played this and it should have the G sharp in there. It's definitely there somewhere. And then finally, let's just try that one more time and get it right this time. So. So two very subtle differences, and they're interesting chords that can be explored. Their uses, I guess we've got a minute, I can quickly talk about uses and application of these things. The way I like to use these things is in a modal context, I'll use some of these voicings. So if I'm working in Dorian, for example. I know that all of these chords were C major chords. These all come in the key of C major, right? That's major sharp 5, but I've got that option there. Oops. So each one of these chord voicings is going to work fantastically if I'm playing in the key of C major or any of its associated modes, so D Dorian, for example. If I transpose all of these ideas so they apply to fit over the key of G major, instead of this, we'd have this. So now, modally speaking, these are all going to work in a G major or, for example, A Dorian context. So I could use this chord now in an A Dorian context. So if I'm playing or I could hit that if I like. I could hit. Very interesting sounding chords. So tons of chords that you can get from these things. This exploration of harmonic minor modes and harmonic major modes and all of these associated sounds, very useful, and obviously something, well, I don't know if useful, very interesting would be the way of putting it, and definitely something that Allan had spent many, many, many years looking into. So there's my little tip for you if you want to break a little further into that Allan Holdsworth chord voicing sound and the difference between harmonic major and Ionian sharp 5. If you have enjoyed this video, please do check me out on Patreon by clicking that button up there. You can subscribe to this channel by hitting that button down there, and you can check out 2 of my other videos by checking those boxes there and there. Peace out, guys. It's been my pleasure to serve and entertain, and I'll be back for another video again soon. Bye.